Do you ever feel stuck, like you're living your life on autopilot? Are you ready to shift into high gear and reach the success you so richly deserve? Welcome to the Play Big Movement podcast. I am your host, Sharon Lecter, entrepreneur, business strategist, and best-selling author. Playing big is not about settling for good enough or being comfortable. It is about reaching your highest potential and achieving your greatest success. Join me in my Play Big movement as I interview top experts in business, money, and entrepreneurship, all ready to serve you and to help you play big, be number one in your field, live your legacy, and create maximum impact. Hello, everyone. Welcome to this segment of the Play Big Movement podcast. I'm Sharon Lecter, your host, and I get to introduce a friend that I've had for several years because we share a huge passion, and that's about financial education and financial literacy and getting it into the school systems. Walter Clarke, thank you so much for being with me today.
Sharon, it's fantastic as always.
Well, Walter, you've been in the financial services management industry for well over 20 years, and I love the fact that you've laser focused into the fact that money can sometimes create great dysfunction within even the wealthiest families. And you've really created your own niche on with your company, Family CFO. You're helping people navigate that system and the importance of educating future generations for money. And so I really applaud that. And you stepped up to the plate and said, I want to help with getting financial education into the school system. So I applaud you for that as well. And we are still working hard on that. Not where we want to be yet, but I like to start these interviews. I think you also taught at various universities for over close to 20 years as well. So you are truly an expert in your field, and you've seen it from the inside out. That's very important because you see how people succeed, but we also learn from how people don't succeed. But tell me a little bit about little Walter. I always like to start with my guests telling us their beginnings.
Actually, when I was growing up, people called me Little Wally, not Little Walter. But I think I grew up in a sports family as a kid, so I think that has always fed my drive to be good at things. I think my family installed that very early, and it's one of the we may skip around a little bit, but it's really one of the things that I think is completely missed in financial education. And so you and I are working on something at the high school level. But my belief and really the reason, for a lot of reasons, I wrote 401 Kid was I want to tell people they need to teach things earlier, way earlier. So I had values as a kid in athletics, and in athletics that taught me sacrifice, discipline, winning, losing, failure, triumph, and all that. And that really sort of shaped me. But if we go a little further and we start to instill financial disciplines in our kids early, I think that's going to make a big difference. As I escalated and went to school and all of that, and then entered the work field, it's just been it's been an interesting journey, this whole financial education component, which came to me not intentionally. It came to me actually by accident.
Oh, I love that. And I think it's really, you're so right. While we're working on getting it in high schools, we also want to try and get it in through all grade schools. And quite frankly, as parents, we need to do it at home. So we don't need to wait for the education system to get it. And it is so critical because when it comes to money, you're either in control of your money or it's in control of you. And there's so much emotion around money. And certainly what we've seen over the last couple of years with the volatility in the markets has caused even higher stress. A recent survey showed 93% of women are stressed out about money. 82% of Americans are stressed out about money. And when you can start educating yourself, you can start talking about high emotion, low intelligence. When you start educating yourself, the emotion gets under control. And particularly when you have somebody there to advise you and to help guide you. Certainly, that's what you do for all your clients.
Yeah.
And yes, we've been working in this initiative together for several years, but you've just written a new book and it's just out. I had the honor of being able to see a review copy, and I wanted to support that. One of the reasons I invited you to this podcast. So tell me a little bit about 401k Kid.
Well, really, it was, I got tired. I crafted a program. I think you got to go back a little bit to 1996. And I was having, and a lot of people, you'll know this, Sharon, but a lot of people maybe on your podcast won't. There was a very iconic gentleman in the Phoenix business community that was a car dealer, and his name was Lou Grubb. And Lou sold his business to what was, at the time, AutoNation and Wayne Huizinga. And it was a very significant transaction for him. Lou and I were having lunch, and he just talked about how frustrated he was at what he called his new business. And I said, "What do you mean by that?" I said, "Lou," I said, "Well, I know everything there is about the car business, but I know nothing about the investment business. And people talk to me as if I understand. And I don't. And I don't want to sound stupid. So I'm not going to say, well, what's an agency bond? What's a treasury bond? What is a mid-year maturity corporate bond?" And so they talk to me in lingo that I don't understand definitions, I don't understand terminology. So out of that real conversation back in 97, 98, 99, me and a gentleman teamed up and wrote a class for people like Lou that really educated them without being sold. That was the key. Like Lou said, the insurance guy comes in and they want Lou to buy insurance. The stock guy, buy more stock. The real estate, more real estate. And so Lou wanted just to understand. And so we crafted a program, and then we started teaching that at ASU. Our first class was in March of 2000 or March of 1999, and we've taught that program all over the country over the years. But really, the catalyst for 4 on Kid is people would always say to me, "I wish I would have learned this earlier. Like I wish I would have got this training earlier." So when I had my event, or I sold my business, or I inherited money, or even what's sad, displaced women. You've seen that in divorce where the displaced woman loses not only her husband but the financial infrastructure that the husband typically, and not always, okay, some women are the working and then the husband loses it, but so anyway, the book was really a response to just that, and then also recognizing the missed opportunity from what I call 0 to 10. And it's been proven in the way people develop their learning skills that they are so much more apt to learn from 0 to, let's say, 8 years old, 10 years old. They learn language better, they learn music better, they learn sports better, everything, because they're willing, their minds are pliable, they're open, they're excited, and so really the book was like, hey parents, you have got to take a lead. And I also started seeing, as you've seen, the destruction of our youth and the cancer of social media. So if you don't instill these educational values in our kids, the internet's going to do it. And the internet is going to overlay that you have more, you got to have this, you got to have that, you're not enough, I'm great, you suck. And so really that was the catalyst. That was that you start seeing these things. And in my introduction in the book, I say, parents, if you don't do this, the internet's going to do it for you. Kim Kardashian is going to be your money coach. And
Yep.
is that what you want?
It's so true. It's so true. I mean, we've seen the increase in depression, with increase in suicide, and so much of it can be traced back to the impervious messages in social media. So it's really scary. Scary. I see it. I agree with you completely.
Yeah,
So
and we
tell our viewers and listeners what they can expect from 401 Kid.
well, they can. It's an easy read, and it's really a step by step guide in the process. It's not a technical book. It's more of a behavioral book, and I believe, and that's why I am so passionate about working with you, Sharon. I think it's more about what we don't teach than what we do teach in financial literacy, from a vantage point of teaching to people that come into sudden wealth. Over and over again, they said, make it simple. Make simple building blocks that I can understand. So the book is really laid out in a very systematic way. So as an example, how do you teach your 0 to 3 year old about money? Well, you're not going to teach them about money, but you're going to teach them what's the importance of learning. And what happens as you learn, you then create freedom. So you go from crawling to walking to being potty trained to maybe riding a bike with training wheels, maybe riding a bike without training wheels. And what is that process? That's learning, that's failing, that's trying again. And then from there, you create value. You clean your room, then that creates value, because then mom doesn't have to clean the room and she can then do other things. So you can have very basic conversations about why learning and value are so important in our DNA. And then as you then progress, value then gets compensated. And then, as you know, you can only do four things with $1. You can spend it, save it, earn it, give it away. So then you build in that you cannot spend every dollar that you earn. So you got to put some away and you got to spend it. So if you just did those things and then you picked up your book on buying assets, we've changed the game. Just those things and those things alone are because you're gonna teach discipline, you're gonna teach delayed gratification, you're gonna teach how it works in terms of you can't spend every nickel. You got to give some away, you got to put some away, you got to invest some, and that's very basic. But again, like language, you build that foundationally, and then all of a sudden, when they're 11, 12, 13 years old, you've set them up to really learn and expand. They could buy your cash flow game, and then really start to play with it and see how the world really works. And it's not a complicated business. It's not a complicated structure. It's a few things, but we're not. It's like protein in your vegetables, right? Just two things.
I love it. I
it,
love it. And I
it,
think I want to highlight something you said, because it's also the success of Rich Dad Poor Dad and all the books we wrote there was because it was easy to understand.
yeah.
We weren't telling, we were sharing. And you've done the same thing in 401 Kid. You're not making things complicated, you're making them simple and easy to understand. And that's what helps take away a little bit of the fear when it comes to money, because people are afraid because they don't understand it. And so they block it out instead of learning about it. So if you can kind of share something that opens their eyes a little step at the time, all of a sudden their education increases because it's been something that's been easy for them to understand. So I applaud
I
that.
couldn't agree with you more. The intimidation factor around money, and we really encourage parents, and it's all economics of parents. I wrote this book for the affluent. I wrote the book for the parents that are struggling. So if you don't know how to do something, just teach it. And guess what? You're going to learn it. I remember as I crafted this program and I started teaching in 1999, I thought I knew what I was doing. And I very quickly realized I didn't. But by teaching it and by communicating it just became part of my DNA. So by teaching it to your children, you can actually go out and get mentors. You can listen to podcasts. You can listen. There's tons of people on the internet that are into financial education. And so make it a journey. And I really believe be vulnerable with your kids. This is what worked for me. This is what didn't work for me. And this is what I learned. This was my success. This was my failure, my setback. And make it interactive. Go to an event. Go look at property. Go. I mean, there's so many things that you can do to make it a to make it a field trip.
And that's, when I wrote in the Rich Kid Poor Kid book back in Rich Dad days, I had money field trips in the back of the book, talking about taking your kids to the bank and just letting them see the different options there are, taking them to a fast food place and say, there's the owner's not here because he owns the business and other people are running it. And there's a company that makes the styrofoam container, a different company that makes the straw. Just talking about the world of business and money starts opening their eyes to the economics of the world around them. So
You make such a great point, because that's another thing that we're not teaching our kids. The school system is, I'd say 95, 98% teaching our kids how to be a wage earner. And in my class, in the 25 years I taught, there were zero wage earners that came to the class. Zero. Who came to the class then? They were owners. Now, what's fascinating about that is they were not founders. They just owned a piece of the business. So think about all the people that are millionaires that work at Walmart, Target, Facebook, Meta, Google. One of the wealthiest guys that ever came to our program. He wasn't the founder of Google. It wasn't his idea, but he was employee 21. So you can imagine the level of wealth he had. So just educating our kids about what is an owner? How do you become an owner? How do you get equity-based compensation? How do you, when you negotiate, you get salary, you get benefits in your retirement plans, 401k, things like that, matches. But then there's a whole nother universe called employee-based compensation, where you get, stock grants and really all those things. So it's just opening up the landscape so our kids are just better, they have more knowledge.
I couldn't agree more. I talk about it all the time that we are being siloed into exchanging time for money. And true wealth comes from when you focus your time on buying, building, creating income producing assets so that you get your time back. That allows you to have the time to give more and to support more in the community. So it's just a tragedy that we're not teaching our kids about anything except how to get a job and exchange time for money, because there's only so many hours in the day, only so many days in the week. So we're giving them only a small glimpse into what's possible for them.
Yeah, and the other thing too that's a bit frustrating for me, and I think parents need to really wake up to this fact, is they need to look in the mirror and say, do I want my kids to have my economic lifestyle? That might be a yes, and that might be a hell no. And so what you see is your kids do what they see.
Yeah, we've heard the phrase "the rich get richer, the poor get poorer," and I go, well, that's because we're not teaching them about money in school. If we truly want to level the playing field, we'll teach it in school so every child has an opportunity to learn about money. But since we're not doing that, they learn from their parents.
Right. So
Sometimes they learn good.
the landscaper becomes the landscaper. It's so funny. I was in Starbucks 6 months ago, and this gal, I said, "What do you do?" And she goes, "I'm a longshoreman." Oh, that's interesting. I said, "How do you become a longshoreman?" She goes, "Well, my dad was a longshoreman."
Yep.
So it's that. And so if we want to stop, I think parents need to look at and say, okay, who are the mentors? What books? What's fascinating in my book, as you know, I'm a big fan of Sarah Blakely, the founder of Spanx. And Sarah's dad was leaving when she was 15, kind of leaving the family, and they weren't doing good economically. But her dad gave her some Wayne Dyer tapes, some Limitless tapes. She listened to the tapes and really completely changed her mindset about what was possible for her. And I think parents can do that. I think they can. There's lots of tapes. There's lots of free things on YouTube. There's all kinds of materials that can open up that entrepreneurial spirit. There's your stuff. It's really, it's really everywhere. But it's up to the parent. I think the parent has a lot of responsibility to guide those. Just like if your kid has a lot of tennis talent, you're not going to be his coach. You're just not. You're going to find that person that can take your son to the next level.
And I think it's important to, just as a continuing dialogue about that, it is understanding that in order to find the right information, it has to start with inside your brain. It's the mindset. You can find somebody to teach you how to buy real estate, but if you have a poor person's mentality and you have a scarcity mindset, you're not going to be able to have the success you deserve. So everything I teach has a mindset move as well as a money move, because you've got to open your mind to the possibilities, because we've had our minds like channeled into one direction. We have to be able to release that and open up to the world of possibilities.
Yeah.
Well, good. Well, tell people how they can find 401 Kid.
Well, it's on all the Audible networks. It's on Amazon, and so it's just you put in 401 Kid or Walter Clarke, and it will all come up. It's on audio. It's in print. So I'm just I'm excited. One of the things that we also have started a social media channel, 401 Kid Education, so you can follow us there. We kind of came up with something kind of clever, recently. It's called the Parent Intelligent Meter, and basically what it is that it's the kids' perspective on how smart we are as parents. And so I think it really speaks to this, because from 0 to somewhere around 11 or 12, we are absolute geniuses. We can do no wrong, but something happens around the 12 time frame all the way till about 19. We just go from being a genius to a pure idiot. And our kids can't even believe that we survive, let alone function. And then 19 to when they get out of college, we're just stupid. And then once our kids start working out of college, we're kind of smart again. And it's this cycle that's why I'm like, you got to take advantage of this 0 to 10, because when you try to teach somebody and they think you're an idiot, it's like pushing a rope uphill.
Mission. Yep. I often say we should be able to send our kids away at 12 and have them come back at 25, because they think you're crazy. And then all of a sudden, when they turn 25, you're pretty smart again. So.
Right.
It's funny. So yeah, I couldn't agree more. Well, you're going to hang in there, because we're going to do another recording for the private Facebook group. So I really appreciate your time, Walter, and I'm excited about your book and want to support it any way I can. So thank you for being with me today and sharing your wisdom and excitement.
You're welcome. Thank you, Sharon. You're the legend.
So all of you watching and listening, thank you so much for being here for this episode of the Play Big Movement podcast. I'm excited to continue sharing my friends and their brilliance as it relates to money and life. So thank you for being here. And until next time, you're fabulous. Have a great day. Thank you for listening to this segment of the Play Big Movement podcast. Please subscribe to iTunes and leave us a review, as well as join us in other areas of social media: Twitter, Instagram, and LinkedIn at Sharon Lechter, and for Facebook, author Sharon Lechter. Thank you so much and have a fabulous day.